Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm really glad you're here today because we've got a seriously fascinating document to unpack. We are diving straight into a major pivot in federal tech strategy, the Executive Order on Artificial Intelligence, officially called Promoting Advanced Artificial Intelligence Innovation and Security. This was signed on June 26, and it essentially lays out a completely distinct approach to AI development, cybersecurity, and how the U.S. handles global technological competition. Our goal today is to walk through exactly what's inside this document, step by step, using the text itself to figure out the actual directives being handed down to federal agencies. All right, let's just dive right in. So, first things first, let's ground ourselves in the actual source material. We are looking directly at the official White House release of the document. This is a presidential action invoking the authority vested by the Constitution and U.S. laws. What we're doing today is taking this incredibly dense, formal government text and stripping it down to its core directives. We want you to clearly understand the operational changes it actually mandates, and we're going to look completely objectively at how this order tackles the very complex intersection of AI and national security. To keep things moving quickly, we've broken this explainer down into 5 distinct parts. 1. The new AI policy. 2. Upgrading cyber defenses. 3. The cybersecurity clearinghouse. 4. Defining frontier models. And 5. Targeting criminal actors. Starting right off with Section 1, the new AI policy. The document kicks things off with a very specific, ambitious objective. The text plainly states that the United States must lead the world in AI, and it explicitly links this to an America-first cybersecurity effort. The dual goals here are to enhance national security while at the same time ensuring global AI dominance. The order asserts that while advanced AI makes the country stronger, it obviously introduces new threats that require serious, coordinated action across government departments and the private sector. So it's really framing AI not just as some neat technological tool, but as an absolutely critical pillar of geopolitical power. Now listen to this exact phrasing because it highlights the core mechanism the order proposes to achieve that global dominance: deregulation. The text explicitly credits future technological growth to slashing the bureaucratic constraints that the prior administration placed on America's AI developers and researchers. So the fundamental argument here is that overly burdensome regulation stifles innovation. The stated policy is to accelerate AI adoption by removing those constraints and instead relying on a close collaborative relationship with the private sector to protect American ingenuity. Which brings us to Section 2, upgrading cyber defenses. That philosophical shift leads right into concrete, immediate actions to secure the government's own infrastructure. And the timeline here captures the sheer urgency of this order. Just look at how much is packed into the first 30 days. Within a single month, the Committee on National Security Systems and the Secretary of War have to prioritize the cyber defense of their information systems. At the exact same time, the director of CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, is ordered to issue binding operational directives. These are meant to expedite defenses for civilian federal systems and get advanced cybersecurity tools, including AI models, into the hands of state and local authorities, rural hospitals, and community banks. Then, hitting the 60-day mark, the Office of Personnel Management has to expand hiring for United States Tech Force Information Cybersecurity Specialists pathways. For anyone familiar with federal bureaucracy, a 30 to 60-day turnaround is literally light speed. Moving right along to Section 3, the Cybersecurity Clearinghouse. Tucked into those 30-day deadlines is the creation of a really fascinating new organizational structure. Let's break down the exact operational procedure for this clearinghouse, which is essentially going to act as a central hub for threat intelligence. It's formed jointly by the Secretary of the Treasury, the Secretary of War through the NSA Director, and the Secretary of Homeland Security through the CISA Director. And they have a very specific 3-step mission. Step 1, coordinate and deconflict the scanning for software vulnerabilities. Step 2, actively discover and validate those vulnerabilities. And Step 3, prioritize how to fix them and actually distribute the patches. It's basically a centralized, hyper-efficient nervous system for neutralizing cyber threats using advanced AI. But here is the absolute kicker of the whole clearinghouse concept. The order explicitly states that this is a voluntary collaboration with the AI industry and operators of critical infrastructure. It is not a mandate. It relies entirely on private companies choosing to step up, participate, and share their findings with the government. This lines up perfectly with the deregulatory theme we saw back in Section 1. The government is building the table for coordination, but they're leaving it completely up to the private sector to decide if they want to pull up a chair. Which, of course, naturally brings us to a massive question. If the entire framework is purely voluntary, how exactly is the government going to handle the absolute most powerful, cutting-edge AI models being developed right now? You know, the ones that could fundamentally rewrite the rules of cybersecurity overnight. That leads us right into Section 4, defining frontier models. The document uses a very specific term to address this tier of technology, the covered frontier model. This isn't your everyday chatbot. The order directs the government to develop a classified benchmarking process to assess these advanced cyber capabilities. And take a look at who makes the final call. It's the director of the NSA, the agency responsible for global signals intelligence and cyber warfare. Whether a model crosses the line to become a covered frontier model is determined through this highly classified lens, in consultation with other security officials. So they are creating a very strict intelligence-driven metric to flag the most potent AI out there. But once a model gets slapped with that frontier model label, what actually happens? Well, Section 3 sets up a fascinating contrast. On one side, the government has to design a voluntary framework. AI developers can choose to engage, provide access to their frontier models for up to 30 days before they release them to the public, and collaborate to harden critical infrastructure. But on the exact same page, the order issues an explicit ban, stating, "Nothing in this section shall be construed to authorize the creation of a mandatory governmental licensing, pre-clearance, or permitting requirement." That right there is the core tension of the whole document. The administration is essentially betting the house that the AI industry will willingly partner with national security agencies without being legally forced to do so. And finally, Section 5, targeting criminal actors. So while the government is taking this very hands-off approach to the developers building the AI, they are taking a strictly punitive approach to anyone who misuses it. Section 4 shifts the focus straight to the Attorney General, dictating the aggressive enforcement of existing federal criminal laws. It specifically calls out statutes like 18 U.S.C. 1028, 1030, and 1343 to target malicious behaviors. We're talking about using AI to illegally access or damage computers, breaching public or private IT systems, and, very specifically, employing AI agents to unlawfully vacuum up data for criminal purposes. The policy creates a stark dividing line. The creation of the tools remains totally unhindered by new licensing, but the weaponization of those tools by bad actors will be prosecuted to the absolute maximum extent of existing law. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today unpacking the mechanics of this June 2026 executive order. We've seen the mandate for lightning-fast federal cyber defenses, the classified benchmarking for frontier models, and this deep, foundational reliance on deregulation and voluntary industry collaboration. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative question to chew on. With the total removal of mandatory licensing and bureaucratic constraints, how will these entirely voluntary frameworks actually shape the future of the global AI race and American national security? It is a remarkably bold policy shift, and watching how this dynamic plays out between the private sector and federal intelligence agencies is going to be absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.